Happy New Year, everyone. I'm Steven.
And I'm Clay.
And we are the Hilsmaniacs. And today we're going to be talking about our top 10 picks for who we think should win this year's WWE Royal Rumble. There's a lot of superstars on these lists that some of them have won the Rumble in the past, at least on my list, and some of them haven't ever won a Royal Rumble, and I'd like to see that happen. So we're just going to get right into it. The first one I have is actually Daniel Bryan.
Hey, me too.
When he announced that he was going to be entering the Royal Rumble this year, that kind of excited me, especially seeing sort of where the story's going with like the Universal title and everything.
Right.
He could be one of the people that beats one of my three choices, at least, that could beat Roman for the Universal title at WrestleMania. I'd be okay with that. I mean, Bryan's technically never been Universal Champion. But you said you had Daniel Bryan?
Yeah, I had Daniel written down too. I mean, I know because the hype between, for Daniel Bryan and stuff, that he's been chosen to win the Rumble before by the fans. I was at the 2014 Rumble, and he fought Bray Wyatt. And everybody wanted Daniel to enter the Rumble and come out and win, and he didn't. So people were booing the rest of the night because he wasn't in the Rumble.
And the fact that's the only thing he hasn't done in his career yet. Like even he said that. There's one thing he hasn't. He's been world champion before. He's been every champion. He's a Grand Slam champion already. So the only
he's
thing
held
he
Money in the
done,
Bank.
Yeah.
The only thing he hasn't done is win the
Royal
Rumble. And, I like Daniel Bryan, so I hope he would win.
And considering it's like it could be his last run with the company. I think he's come out and said that in interviews.
And
it's probably his last.
Technically, if you count the greatest Royal Rumble, he does hold the record for the longest time in a single Rumble match.
Do we count that?
I mean, WWE does. So
okay.
I guess they could be setting him up for, even if he doesn't win the title at Mania, at least set him up to win the Rumble before he leaves the company. So I guess we both had Daniel.
It'd be like a nice send off probably if this was like, I don't know when his new contract. I think I heard it expires in like September or something. So probably come next September he won't be here anymore.
And they need somebody different for Roman to fight on SmackDown instead of fighting Kevin Owens or Jey Uso all the time. Let him fight against Daniel Bryan, or even if Bryan goes against Drew McIntyre, which would be a good match. If Drew is still champion at Mania, which I hope he is.
That would be cool too. They didn't bring Daniel Bryan to Raw, whatever.
Yeah.
Next up, I have Keith Lee. I think everybody's probably got him chosen to win the Rumble this year. If not this year, at least next year.
He will definitely win one at some point.
I could see him facing. I mean, he's fighting Drew McIntyre on Raw next week on this Legends episode for the title, but I don't think he's gonna win there.
No.
So I think having him like win the Royal Rumble and really drag out Keith Lee's run until he becomes champion would be, and seeing him beat Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania.
Or even if they ended up having Sheamus beat Drew for the title, like we think they're planning on doing, then you have Keith Lee beat Sheamus because of their rivalry. So then you could have Keith Lee, fight against Riddle or Strowman or somebody down the line. So I also had Keith Lee on my list to win the Rumble.
I think he's definitely a big time star, and even if he just wins I personally would like to see him versus Bobby Lashley.
Yes.
For the United States title at first, maybe just to sort of get it in our heads that Keith Lee's a big deal. I mean, not that we don't already know that, but like the way they've kind of booked him has been back and forth, sort of. So it'd be nice to.
For those of us that didn't watch NXT, because there's some of us that don't watch that, you've never seen him as a champion, and so if that would be WWE's way of letting him win a title, so that we can see what he's capable of as champion before he wins the big one. Because we didn't really get to see him that long in NXT as champion either before he had to relinquish. Well, he lost the North American title and relinquished the NXT title. I had Keith Lee.
And I think that would be a good way to build him up too. Like you said, let us see what he looks like as champion. Even if it's not this year, I definitely think next year he should win the Rumble. Heck, maybe he could even be the one who beats Roman for the title, because I definitely think Roman Reigns is going to WrestleMania as the Universal Champion.
Yeah, and so is Drew, I think.
He's going to build, yeah. I mean, Drew might lose it and then win it back or whatever.
I don't know. Keith Lee win the Rumble, go to SmackDown and fight Roman for the title.
I mean, that would be,
that'd be a good match.
That'd be a big draw for SmackDown.
You get two of your top stars on, at Mania fighting over the Universal title. So.
Either way, Keith Lee deserves to be in the main event.
Even if not this year.
Yeah.
Even
if he doesn't win the Rumble, he needs to at least win the world title.
He could win the Elimination Chamber, though, too.
Go check out my list of... I did 10 superstars who I think should win the WWE title in 2021.
Right.
Go check that out. It was a few weeks ago, I think. But Keith Lee was like my number one on there. That's someone I really want to see win the world title.
Yeah.
That could happen from the Royal Rumble or just even in general. Sometime this year, he should win the world title for sure.
Yeah.
Next up for me, I have AJ Styles. I think that's something he hasn't done either. I think, is he a Grand Slam champion? No, he's never been tag team champion.
Nope.
No. Well, either way, I think he should be back in the main event picture. I mean, after his match at TLC, it was a really good match with Drew McIntyre. I think we could see him in the main event of WrestleMania.
Well, and he's still been complaining, because Miz cashed in Money in the Bank, so AJ's saying he deserves a rematch for the title. So this could be his way of getting his rematch. Because we all know that Adam Pearce doesn't just award stuff to people, right? So he would have to earn his shot as...
But I think especially having Omos, as a bodyguard. Usually when they give someone a bodyguard, they want to give that person a push, and that usually goes to a title opportunity. Right. Where they're going to win the title, and then they have this bodyguard that helps them keep the title for ages, and then they lose it eventually.
Omos turns on him, and Omos wins the title.
Yeah. But I think having AJ, because I think AJ's going to be done soon as well. I think he said he's on his way out. He wants one more run with WWE. This will be his, last contract or something, I've heard. And then he'll be on his way out too. So
he'll be going to AEW.
I feel like having him win the Royal Rumble would be a big deal, especially since he debuted in WWE in the Royal Rumble. What year was that?
2016.
2016. Yeah.
That was his first.
So have him go out with a bang, sort of, and win the Royal Rumble would be nice.
Yeah, and he deserves it too. I mean, he's been wrestling for over 20 years, not just in WWE, but he was in Impact and ROH and New Japan. I mean, he is. I guess that's why they call him phenomenal, because he is great in the ring.
And what a better way to go down in history with WWE than to win what's probably the most prestigious match in history, the Royal Rumble match. I mean,
and getting to main event WrestleMania. Yeah. I mean, AJ's been there before as champion, but this time he could get there because he wins the Rumble. Mm-hmm. So I also had AJ Styles.
Who do you have next?
I have my favorite superstar.
Oh, no.
The current Mr. Money in the Bank, now, again, because they gave it back to him, The Miz. And I've said this every year since The Miz started wrestling, that he needs to win the Royal Rumble at some point. Even if it's not this year, he's gonna win. It's the one thing Miz hasn't done in his career, just like Daniel Bryan. It's the one thing he hasn't done. He's a Grand Slam champion. He's held Money in the Bank now twice, or 3 times if you count this as a separate time. And I think it would be a good way to have, if he wins the Rumble and he's Mr. Money in the Bank, he could lose at Mania, then cash in Money in the Bank, and still become champion, and then he ends up fighting Morrison for the WWE title, because Morrison will turn on him.
I actually do want to see that. I think I had John Morrison on that list I mentioned earlier, the superstars who should win the title in 2021.
Yeah, I mean, Morrison should definitely win the title, but...
And I'd like to see him beat The Miz.
The Miz being the first ever person to hold the Money in the Bank contract and win the Royal Rumble, lose at Mania in his match from the Rumble, then after the match, beat up the champion, cash in Money in the Bank, and win the title right at the end of the show.
Well, there's also the possibility he wins the Rumble and goes after one title and wins that, and then cashes in on the other title.
He could do that.
Nobody wants to see that, I hope.
I do.
I don't like The Miz.
I do. He doesn't like The Miz because I do like The Miz.
Okay, so speaking of weird entrants that we sort of both didn't agree on, I'm actually saying Jey Uso, because I think the way that things are playing out. Like right now, we saw Jey Uso fought Roman twice for the Universal title, and then Roman beat him, and now Jey is sort of like working for Roman as like a puppet or like a slave sort of thing, where he's threatening to like kick him out of the family if he doesn't cooperate. So I feel like having Jey win the Royal Rumble, Roman can tell him, or you go take the title from Drew McIntyre and bring that back to our family. Like bring the WWE title home too, so that we rule all of WWE. And then Jey will. They could even go as far as have Jey like beat up Drew or something at one point, just to sort of cement that idea that he might challenge Drew. But then you have him decide to challenge Roman at the end, and then Jey wins the WWE or the Universal title at WrestleMania. I think that would be cool. I don't think The Rock is going to be the one that beats Roman for the title, but either that or you have Jey win the title before WrestleMania, then Roman versus The Rock is just a one-off thing, not for the title. I don't know what their plan is, especially with COVID still existing, but hopefully there's fans and everything by the time WrestleMania rolls around again. I just feel like that's the culmination of the story should be Jey beats Roman for the title, and what a better way to do that than to win the Royal Rumble, because they've done that before. They've enhanced rivalries by having someone win.
Orton,
like when Edge won the Royal Rumble, it was obvious he was going to face Chris Jericho at WrestleMania, even though Jericho hadn't won the world title yet. Then he went on and won the Elimination Chamber, so then it was set in stone.
He won the world title, then Edge ended up fighting him for the title.
So
now, don't get me wrong. I do like Jey Uso. I think he's a great competitor in the ring. Mm-hmm. Do I think he's at the point in his career where he should win the Universal or WWE title? Yes. Do I think he needs to do it through the Rumble? No. Because there's other ways of having Jey fight Roman without actually challenging Roman. You know, Jey could end up winning the Elimination Chamber and fight, depending on which title they make, that, you know, if they make it for the Universal title.
That's true.
Or if they could choose whatever, you know, or you could just have something happen where Jey wins a #1 contenders match to Roman's title and says he's not going to challenge him, and pull like a Randy Orton did to Bray Wyatt, where he says, "Oh, I'm not going to fight you," and then like the week before be like, "Hey, I changed my mind. I'm going to fight you at Mania." You know, so there's plenty of other ways to have it so that Jey can still fight Roman, and even if it's not at Mania, they can still fight for the Universal title, and I'd be okay with seeing him as champion. I don't think, with everybody else that we have in the company right now that should win the Rumble, I don't think Jey should win, at least not yet.
And if they were to have a more obvious winner for the Rumble, it'd be Jey Uso probably. Because if he doesn't win, then that would, I mean, it would further the story, that like Roman's mad he didn't win, but at the same time, it's like, well, what do they do now?
True. The next one I have, and it might be a long shot, is because he's currently out after being burned alive by Randy Orton.
Ooh, yes.
I had The Fiend.
I have The Fiend also.
To win the Royal Rumble, and I would love to see The Fiend win the Rumble. However, I don't know if that's the way they'll go with this storyline. I think they might have Orton be in the Rumble, and the Fiend's music goes off, or the Fiend even comes out and costs Orton, and then it sets up them fighting again, you know, either at Mania or whatever. Now, if they had Orton win the WWE title again, then the Fiend win the Rumble, then I could, you know, if Orton won the title, I could see the Fiend winning the...
Bray and Randy when Randy won the Rumble
I could
again.
If Orton wins the title back, I could see the Fiend challenging him for the title. But because the Fiend is currently out, and I think he's going to come back bigger and better, I would be okay with seeing the Fiend win the Royal Rumble. And I personally think it would be the best way to go. But then again, you know, we've seen the Fiend as champion before. And the last time he held the title, he held it for a week, and that was the Universal title on SmackDown. But I'd still,
and it goes against the Fiend when he has a title and loses it. True. Because it's like they put the title on him, but then it's like, well, now his character is he doesn't lose, so how do we take the titles off of him?
Right.
Now I can see him losing it in triple threat matches. That's fine. Have
the other person take the pin.
Take the pin,
yeah.
like they did with Roman pinned Braun Strowman to win the Universal title. Not Bray. He didn't pin the Fiend. I don't think so. But when they had like Goldberg beat the Fiend, that was stupid.
And Seth beat the Fiend.
And Seth beat him in like I mean, he didn't really beat him, I guess. But
well.
That infamous Hell in a Cell ending. But I could see, even if it wasn't the Fiend that wins the Royal Rumble, maybe like Bray Wyatt wins the Royal Rumble.
Or both.
Because then you have that looming threat. Now here's the thing too. We know there's history with, because Roman took the title off of the Fiend. If the Fiend would win the Royal Rumble, he could go back after Roman again.
True.
There's that issue there as well, and I don't think Jey Uso is going to be able to help Roman in that situation.
True, especially not if. Because Bray is great at mind games, and so he could end up having something happen.
He could target either of them throughout the months leading up to WrestleMania.
So, he won't announce who he's going after, so he could end up going after Roman, he could end up going after Drew, if they're still champions going into Mania. And I just think it would be great if Bray Wyatt pulled a Mick Foley in the Rumble. Came out as the original Bray Wyatt, comes out as the Firefly Funhouse Bray Wyatt, and comes out as the Fiend.
And
wins as the Fiend.
Oh.
And then people start challenging, like, they're like, oh, who's Bray gonna fight? But Bray doesn't get to choose. The Fiend does, because the Fiend won the Rumble. So it would be, and we all know that Bray has that, like, the Fiend and Bray are two separate people in Bray's head. So
true.
It would be interesting to see what direction they would go. Like, if Bray wins the Rumble, is the Fiend gonna help him win? If the Fiend wins the Rumble, is Bray gonna still do these mind games?
Does it have to be Bray that fights for the title
does it
if
have
he wins,
to be the
or can
Fiend?
the Fiend do it? It'll be. I could see craziness. I just don't know if they will have him win. I'd like to see him win the Rumble, but I don't know if they will. Maybe this year.
And I mean, they've built up. I think it was 2015. They built up Bray Wyatt, having him, be like the longest reigning, or the longest person in that match. Because he started at number 5 and went to the end, and he ended up losing. But they've built up Bray Wyatt so much since he started in the company in 2013 that I think it would be a great way to show, like, his gimmick has come full circle now. He started off as Husky Harris, being part of a team in 2011. And ended up, as Bray Wyatt in 2013, and then from there ends as the Fiend, wins the Rumble as his best, like, form possible.
I can see it already too. Him standing there, like, in the middle of the ring, the lights have gone out after he won the Rumble and stuff, and he's just, it's basically the new Undertaker, so they might as well let him have.
And he has Alexa Bliss now, so, like, Alexa could possibly win the Women's Rumble. And then that's Alexa could fight, so then they could, she could fight Asuka, Alexa win the Raw Women's title, the Fiend win the WWE and or Universal title, and they're both champions, going forward.
That would be amazing as well. I'd like to see that, honestly.
I would be okay with Alexa Bliss winning the Women's Royal Rumble, and then, they could have her and Bray start teaming up, and it was so. I think the Fiend should definitely win. And the way they build it up where he's gone now, I think the Rumble would be a great place for a return. Because we've seen that happen numerous times where people get taken out and come back in the Rumble.
Yeah, and then they win the Royal Rumble.
Even if they don't win, they last forever in the thing and then get but...
next up for me, I have Kevin Owens. Now, he hasn't had much luck in terms of, like he was Universal Champion
and
for a while, and then he lost it to we know all that history, but I think it'd be nice to see him win the Royal Rumble, go to WrestleMania, beat Roman for the title, become Universal Champion again. We've already seen him fight Roman twice already, but I feel like extending it out a little bit, like he's lost twice, but now you win the Royal Rumble, take a few months. And then have Kevin beat him at WrestleMania. Just like I said with Bryan earlier, Bryan kind of has a little bit of history. Like Jey Uso's been attacking Daniel Bryan, so he'd want to like win the title off of Roman as well.
And I mean, he has been in the title picture, you know.
Kevin Owens, that's something he hasn't done. Like, he's been Intercontinental Champion, he's been United States Champion, and Universal. He just hasn't ever won the Royal Rumble, and that would be like a new, fresh person to win the Rumble too. That we might not necessarily be expecting, because there's a lot of people like Keith Lee. I'm sure a lot of people are expecting Keith Lee to win, but like someone like Kevin Owens, that'd be a huge push for him.
It'd be a fan favorite.
Especially last year, he just fought Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. So, like, this year, he could actually fight for a title and win it. And become the top guy on SmackDown again, where he belongs. Because 2020, he didn't do much this year, or last year, I don't think. Because, you know, he was away for a lot because of COVID and stuff. Then he came back, and they just had him in random feuds and stuff. But, so seeing him back on top again would be a nice change of pace, and I think would bring a lot of viewers to SmackDown as well.
And, you know, I had Kevin Owens also, and I think the way it seems like the way WWE is going is they're trying to give titles back to people that have already held the title, even if it was like a long time ago that they just gave Big E the Intercontinental title, and he hasn't held that since 2014. True. So, you know, if they give Owens another shot at the Universal title and he could win the title, he's held it before, he could hold it again. You know, I know WWE is high on having the same people win the titles over and over again. Just look at Roman and Lesnar and Seth, and you know, and so Kevin Owens would be one of those people that I don't think, you know, people would mind if he won the Rumble, because even though he's been a heel, he's been a face, you know, and he could switch back and forth again, but people love Kevin Owens, and I'd be okay with him winning the Royal Rumble too. So,
next up, I have the current United States Champion, Bobby Lashley.
Yep.
I'd like to see him actually drop the U.S. title, win the Royal Rumble, and go to WrestleMania, and then become World Champion, which he should have done since day one, since he was in WWE the first time, and even after he left and came back. I think he should have won the world title like immediately. I mean, he's a big dude, and he should be winning.
And he'll get to fight Drew.
He's almost the equivalent of Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
But they haven't booked him to high heaven like they did with Brock Lesnar.
Yes. Lashley is good.
Especially with the Hurt Business and stuff, I think this would be a huge deal if he won the Rumble. I don't know who he'd drop the U.S. title to.
See,
but, you know,
now,
even if he doesn't drop the U.S.
I've said
title,
this before. If Lashley drops the U.S. title and to somebody, and then MVP wins the U.S. title, Lashley win the WWE title, the Hurt Business has all the gold on Raw, because Shelton and Cedric are tag team champions. MVP could win the U.S. title, and then Lashley would be WWE.
I mean, I'm liking this Hurt Business stuff as it is, but having Bobby Lashley as like the top guy on Raw is what I feel is necessary. They need a new top guy, because all they really had all of 2020 was Drew McIntyre, essentially. And then once the draft happened and stuff, now they don't have a lot of top guys, so this is the way to sort of build them up now.
Which is what they should have been doing.
Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre for the WWE title would be a good match. Or even Bobby Lashley versus Keith Lee, if Keith Lee wins the title before that. Have that title for title. U.S. title, WWE title, boom, there's your main event of WrestleMania there.
And that's another thing. I would be okay with Lashley keeping the U.S. title going into, you know, if he wins the Rumble. He'd be the first United States champion to win the Rumble while being United States champion. And then you could have, even if it's not title for title, you still have champion versus champion. Lashley could end up being a dual champion. He could surrender the U.S. title to MVP without actually having to fight MVP, and then everybody would hold the, you know, they would all have gold. MVP would get another title run. Cedric and Shelton would still be tag champs. Lashley would get to hold the WWE title. It'd be a win-win for everybody in that scenario.
And even if after this he breaks out of the Hurt Business and just goes off on a singles run, well, I mean, eventually, if that did happen,
I hate when they break up factions.
That would accomplish two things that Bobby Lashley's never done:
win the Rumble, and the WWE
title. So that would be the only world title he really held when he was in WWE all this time was the ECW Championship.
Does that count?
If everybody remembers that,
Does that count?
Next up, I have Sheamus, another Raw star. They've been sort of building up. I'd like to see him win the Rumble and then face Drew McIntyre in the main event of WrestleMania. I know it'd be his second win, but this is sort of like a new version of Sheamus, more like a tough guy, sort of, rather than I mean, he's still Irish, obviously, but he's not like his original character was. He was this like Irish person. He was like really super Irish, and now he's more of like a Fight Club type person. He's wearing like that tank top and stuff, and plus that seems like what they're building toward is definitely Drew versus Sheamus.
True.
Unless that happens at the Royal Rumble or something, I could see it happening in the main event of WrestleMania, or one of the main events of WrestleMania, I guess. But I think it'd be a bigger match if it was on the biggest stage rather than at the Royal Rumble. And it would be Sheamus' second one, but I think he could actually. I think the first time he went and won the World Heavyweight title back then.
In 12 seconds off of Daniel Bryan.
So having it as a bigger deal and a better match against Drew McIntyre, I could see them main eventing WrestleMania.
See, and that's the thing. Like, I didn't put Sheamus on here, and I really didn't put anybody that's already won, because I personally, as a fan of the Rumble, like, it's my favorite match ever of the year. I don't like seeing the same people win the match. It's the same with a championship. I don't like seeing the same people in the spotlight winning the title over and over. I don't like seeing people win the Rumble over and over, even if it is just twice. Like, they did it in 17, they did it in 13, they did it in 16, they did it in 14. And they've had so many people at this point win 2 Rumbles and go on to WrestleMania, and it was unnecessary for Cena to win the Rumble again, for Batista to win the Rumble again, for Triple H to win the Rumble again, just so he could be WWE champion at Mania, to have Roman take it back from him anyways. To have Orton just so he could fight The Fiend. Like, they're using the Rumble to set up storylines, and they don't care who wins as long as it plays into the storyline, and I don't like that. And that's why I didn't pick anybody that's already won the Rumble to win again, because I personally don't like that. But on the note of Sheamus that you said, my next pick is his former tag team partner in the Bar, Cesaro.
Oh, I didn't even think of Cesaro. That's a good one.
I don't like Shinsuke Nakamura. I don't care if you do. I don't, that's fine. I don't like Shinsuke. Cesaro is too good of a competitor to be in a tag team still. He needs another solo run in the company. And what a better way to do that than to have him fight either Roman or Drew for the Universal or WWE title after winning the Royal Rumble. I've always been a fan of Cesaro, even way back when he first won the United States title, and he wasn't really like a major star at that point. He's good in the ring, and he should have been champion a long time ago, and it's a shame that he wasn't. But they've had him in tag team competition forever. They had him with Sheamus, and then he went with Shinsuke, but if they give him a solo run, give him a push as a solo competitor, kind of like what they did with Big E, you would have him fight Roman or Drew for the title after winning the Royal Rumble.
That's a good one. I mean, I didn't think of Cesaro because obviously WWE's done a lot to make us not think of Cesaro, because he's just been in a tag team all this for like years now. That's always been known for.
And he hasn't really been competing.
So I could have thought of Robert Roode, I guess, too, would have been a nice Royal Rumble winner, but I didn't even think of them because they're in tag teams and all this stuff, and WWE's done their darndest to make us not think of them.
Very true.
So that's why it didn't come to my head, but Cesaro's a good shout for sure.
Yeah.
Next up, I guess I'll just go with, I have Edge. I know he's won a Rumble already, but he is on his way. I think he has like a 3-year contract with WWE now, and then he's going to retire on his own terms. And right now he's out with an injury. I personally would have wanted to see him versus Randy Orton again at WrestleMania, but this time for the WWE Championship. But if Orton doesn't win the title back before, which I don't think is going to happen now, so I'd rather see, I guess, Edge beats Drew McIntyre.
I mean, they could still set it up to have Edge versus Orton.
Yeah,
just don't have either one of them win the Rumble.
We're probably gonna see a third match between Edge and Orton, but I would have rather seen it for the WWE title. Right. I think I also had Edge on my list of people who I think should win the title in 2021.
I'd be okay with that.
But winning the Royal Rumble again, it'd be a second time and probably the last time we'll ever see it happen for him. Even if it's not this year, it could be next year's Rumble, whatever. But just to see him capture the world title one last time before he officially retires and doesn't come back anymore would be pretty cool to see. I don't know if it'll happen this early, like I said, or in the one of the years to come, because he does have, I don't know if it's extended now because of his injury and everything, but he does have at least a few more years he's going to be fighting in WWE on a limited schedule, just like Daniel Bryan. He won't compete in every pay-per-view, but all the big ones, like a Brock Lesnar kind of thing. But seeing Edge win the Royal Rumble again, especially coming back from his injury, if he's ready by then, it'd be just like the first time he won the Rumble, he came back from his injury. He could even be the one that eliminates Orton or whatever. Just like last year he eliminated Orton, he could do it again, I guess. Or did Orton eliminate him?
I don't remember.
Either way, I think, and that could heighten their rivalry too. Maybe they'll have one more match at Fastlane or something, and then Edge will go on and fight for the world title at WrestleMania.
And again, like I said, I don't like people winning the Rumble multiple times, but I think it would be interesting to see Edge. I didn't have Edge on my list, but I think that would be interesting because he would be the first person to win the Rumble after already being a Hall of Famer.
True.
I mean, we've had Hall of Famers win, but they weren't Hall of Famers when they won the Rumble.
I didn't even think of that.
So Edge would be the first person to do that, and he would make history there. But do I think they need to do Edge versus Orton for the title? No. Do I think they need to do Edge versus Orton again? Yes. Now, they could set it up. They could have Edge come back, eliminate Orton, which causes them to feud again, and then they could fight at Mania in what could be Edge's last match, depending on where his contract goes. And even if they don't have him fight in his last match, he could still fight Orton, and that rivalry move on to something else.
Well, he could fight Drew. I think Edge versus Drew McIntyre might be a pretty good match. I think both guys are over enough. Edge would either put over Drew McIntyre in a defeat, or Edge wins the world title, whatever. But I think that'd be a good person to take the title from Drew is Edge, and then you have Orton and Edge one more time. They could have at Backlash again, the greatest wrestling match ever, Part 2.
Or do it at SummerSlam
for the world title. Well, I guess Money in the Bank is first. I don't know, but anyway, that's something I'd like to see. Probably just Edge main eventing WrestleMania. Even if he's the one that beats Roman, it'd be spear versus spear.
Right.
That's something we could see too. So who knows what the possibilities are with Edge? But
my next one I had was former, well, I guess technically still currently New Day member, Kofi Kingston. Kofi has done everything in his career except Money in the Bank and Royal Rumble, and the way they were pushing Kofi, he won. Last year was Kofi Mania. He won the or 2019, I guess would have been Kofi Mania. He won the WWE title for the first time in his 11 plus year career now, I guess, or whatever, or 15, whatever. And Kofi definitely deserves another run, because it was cut short by Brock Lesnar just so they could bring Lesnar back, put him on Raw, and have Drew beat him for the title. But I think Kofi definitely deserves another run as champion. And Kofi versus Drew McIntyre, I think, would be a great match. So I think Kofi,
and especially winning the Royal Rumble, that would put Kofi down in history for sure.
After all the amazing stuff he's done in the Rumble, handstand and walking on the barricade and using the
all those
chair
amazing things he did,
landing on Big E's shoulders, and the Exotic Express and all this other stuff that he's done throughout the many years he's been in the Rumble. The best way to cap all of that off
would be
to actually win the
or
Royal
to do
Rumble.
One of those things and then also
and then allow him to win. Yes. So
I didn't think of Kofi either, but I did think of, for my last one.
He's my last.
The
one
last or the recently recent New Day member, the new Intercontinental Champion, Big E. I definitely think they're giving him a push, but I don't know if that would mean he'd have, just like with Keith Lee, Bobby Lashley. I mean, I don't know if that would mean he'd have to drop the title first.
Not necessarily.
He won the Intercontinental title, then go and win the Royal Rumble. I definitely think they're giving Big E a push on SmackDown. Yeah. They want to make him sort of the Keith Lee of SmackDown almost. I personally want to see a match between Keith Lee and Big E.
Well, if Keith Lee wins the United States title and Big E's still Intercontinental Champion at Survivor Series,
I know we could see that later this year.
Survivor Series, and that might be a good match.
Big E winning the Royal Rumble. And even if he could eliminate Kofi and Xavier or something. It'd be like it'd be a sort of heel move. I don't know if they want to turn Big E heel, but
I mean, not necessarily.
I think it would be a surprise.
Themselves, so.
Considering everyone that's probably going to be in the Rumble this year, like we'd have the big names.
I mean,
like
we
Seth
already
Rollins,
know Daniel Bryan and Bobby Lashley
in there,
so.
So and considering all of them, I think it would be a big surprise if Big E won.
I agree.
Just like last year, we were actually surprised that Drew McIntyre won. We wanted to see it happen. It came down to Drew and Roman, and everyone's like, oh, well, Roman's probably winning then. It was a surprise when Shinsuke Nakamura won because it was somebody different, even though he didn't go on and actually win the title. Because WWE.
He fought him 5 times for it, though.
Yeah, 6 times.
Whatever.
But I think it would be, to cap off this sort of Big E push that they're doing, would be nice to have him win the Royal Rumble.
Yes.
And go on and headline WrestleMania against probably Roman Reigns.
And if he does have to drop the Intercontinental title, it'd be fine as long as he doesn't lose it back to Sami Zayn.
This could be how he reunites with New Day. He could win the Rumble, go to Raw, win the WWE title off
and
of
then they could win back the tag team titles and all 3 of them.
It practically writes itself.
It would literally be New Day from SmackDown when Kofi was champion and Big E and Xavier were tag team champions.
I think Big E deserves it. So, I mean, he's good.
Reverse.
You know, he's been locked into New Day all these years.
True.
So nothing wrong with that. I mean, New Day is a great act and everything, but yeah, it's kind of getting tiresome. I don't know why they didn't do. Like, I'm glad they let Kofi win the title.
Yeah.
I don't know why they couldn't let them all go after singles titles while they were still on a team.
Xavier Woods fought for the United States title in that one tournament, the one year.
Well, yeah, but I mean, just seeing, I think Big E deserves that, especially, you know, he's been just like Kofi did. I'd like to see Xavier win the title someday too, probably.
Even if it's not the WWE title, at least win a singles title.
A singles title, world title, whatever. So having Big E win the Intercontinental title, this is almost their look at, okay, well, this is what he's like with a championship. He is good in the ring as a single star. And what a better way to push him than to have him outlast 29 other superstars in the Royal Rumble match. Alright, so there you go, guys. That was our list for who we think should win the Royal Rumble this year in 2021. Let us know what you guys think down in the comments section. Who do you want to see win the Royal Rumble? Be sure to let us know that. And like this video and subscribe for more. We got all kinds of wrestling stuff we could talk about in the future. So stay tuned for that and keep your eyes open. And stay safe out there, everyone. Take care.
Go Miz.
Subscribe.